What is up, guys? Welcome to episode number 146 of Beef's Beef. I told you guys I'd give you 2 episodes in a week. Guess what? I'm doing it. Today, I have a great episode. I know I say this every time, but guess what? I mean it every time. But before we get into my episode, I want to talk about my sponsors. First, I have Crystal Lackey at Stockton Mortgage. I say it every time. Crystal Lackey is one of my good friends. She does a lot of great things over at Stockton Mortgage. Hit her up for all your home loan, refinancing, just any mortgage needs. Hit her up. Call her at 502-615-0743. Again, hit her up for all your home loan, mortgage, refinancing needs, 502-615-0743. Stockton Mortgage is an equal housing lender, MLS number 8259, Crystal Lackey, MLS number 1735979. My other great sponsor is Isaac Thomas over at Dellium Clothing. Again, that's Dellium with a B, B-D-E-L-L-I-O-M. Dellium is a men's and women's minimalistic brand that focuses on modern aesthetic and quality. It's pronounced Dellium, even though there is a B in the front. It is B-D-E-L-L-I-O-M. Dellium is everything comes pre-shrunk, so you don't have to worry about anything shrinking in the dryer. It's already done. They have a great men's line right now at Him's Gentleman Boutique in downtown New Albany, Indiana. So go and check those things out. You can find Dellium Clothing at Dellium Clothing on Facebook and at Dellium Clothing on Instagram. So if you have any questions, either hit me up or check out one of those two things on Facebook or Instagram. Again, it's at Dellium Clothing, B-D-E-L-L-I-O-M, Clothing on Instagram, and just Dellium Clothing on Facebook. Now, today, like I said, I have a great interview for you guys. You guys can hear him on the radio. You guys can see him winning basketball games in Division I this year. Today, I have none other than Louisville's own Coach Scott Davenport, the coach of Bellarmine University men's basketball team. Scott has been an assistant under Coach Denny Crum. He's been an assistant at VCU alongside the likes of Tubby Smith. He coached at Ballard High School, won a state title in the year that I was born, which I can't wait to dig in for that because I think he'll think that's pretty funny. Coaching guys that you may have heard of, Allen Houston, Dwyane Wade, was an assistant again under Coach Crum and Coach Patino, and then finally he took over as the head coach at Bellarmine. So I can't wait to do this interview today. Ask him. I have a lot of good questions for him. He's pretty pumped about him as well. So, guys, without further ado, Coach Scott Davenport. So I'm here with Coach Scott Davenport. Coach, I appreciate you joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing super. This is it's great because during very difficult times, you need to rely on people. And what we have built since our guys came back July 5th, there was a period where they went home and then came back to start the semester. It's been great because we fed off them and they have fed off us. And if you're an 18 to 22-year-old, these are confusing times. So we've tried to be there for our guys in very creative ways. But it's been very rewarding because it kind of restores your optimism that we're going to be okay because of these young people. And our guys have been amazing. I'm proud of them.
I would even say it doesn't even have to pigeonhole 18 to 22-year-olds. It's been confusing for everyone, I would say.
Yeah, it's interesting. Every Thursday we give them the schedule for the next week. And that is so that they can schedule tutors, and this schedule is around their classes, or if they've got, study sessions or class meetings, etc. And I told them in July, I said, guys, I know we take pride in being meticulous and being very thoughtful and so everything's lined out, but trust me, it's going to change. And I'm apologizing right now that it's going to change, and it's going to change over and over and over. But just learn to be resilient, learn to understand things are going to change. And it's ironic. It's like, I tell them all the time, it's like running a mile race and you get an eighth of a mile from the finish line. You're ready to kick it in. And then they go, no, we're going to run a 2-mile race.
Yeah.
And then they keep moving the finish line, but they have been resilient. I'm proud of them. And, I'm encouraged because these young people are the answer. I mean, going forward, they're the answer. And I got a little two-year-old, granddaughter. I only have one grandchild, a 2-year-old. And she needs them. I tell them all the time, Ren needs you all. She needs you all to be great. And I'm encouraged.
Nice. So I was looking up some stuff about you. So you started your coaching career at the University of Louisville, your alma mater.
Now, yeah, I'm not trying to correct you. Actually, my college coaching career.
College coaching career, okay.
But in 1978, upon graduating with a degree in psychology from U of L, I was the JV coach at Ahrens High School.
Nice.
Ahrens High School is on the corner of First and Chestnut, between Chestnut and Ali. It is now the Brown School.
Brown School, yeah.
But back then, it was not the trade school. It was Ahrens High School. And I coached there 2 years. Then I went to Ballard as the JV coach for 3 years. Then I became a graduate assistant at U of L.
Gotcha. So you became a grad assistant under Coach Denny Crum, who I've actually had on the podcast twice. When did you say to yourself, though, I guess it was before that, when did you say to yourself that this is kind of what I want to do? Or when did you realize that coaching is what I'm going to do?
Okay. So I go to the University of Louisville, and I'm going to be a pharmacist. And I'll say this with all humility. I'll say what I'm getting ready to say to you. I say this with tremendous humility. The corner of 3rd and Eastern Parkway, the Natural Science Building on the campus of the University of Louisville, room 101 is a lecture hall in the Natural Science Building. And I think in one of the chairs, one of the desks sits a plaque that said, "Here sits Scott Davenport, the absolute worst chemistry student in the history of the University of Louisville." And I walked out that spring after that chemistry class, and I said, "Who you kid? You're not going to be a pharmacist. You're going to be a teacher and a basketball coach." And that was it. But in reality, looking back, this is something I take great pride in. I made the basketball. I went to I grew up in the south end of Louisville. I grew up on Central Avenue, right by Churchill Downs. And I went to Southern Junior High School. It's now Olmsted North. And I made the basketball team. Back then it was junior high. It was not middle school. So it was grades 7, 8, 9. I made the basketball team as an 8th grader, which was a big accomplishment. 8th graders didn't make the team. And I kept a diary, a diary in a spiral notebook. And I kept it, and I wrote down every single day what we did in practice. Every single game, I'd recap the game, and I kept it. 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th, 11th, 12th at Iroquois High School. I went to the University of Louisville and walked on the JV team under Coach Jones, under Coach Jerry Jones, and I kept it 2 years there. So when I walked out of that, doing horrible in that chemistry class and getting through that class with a D, I knew back in that 8th grade I was going to be a coach. Why did I keep that diary?
That's a good point.
As my sons grew up and got involved in athletics, and Doug's my assistant at Bellarmine now, we would go through my memorabilia. We would go through things, and they would just be amazed. Now it would have to be a blog or a journal or, a log, but back then it was just a diary, and I commented on what we did, what drills we did, how I played, my teammates, the great coaches I played for. So to answer your question, why did the Spirit move me in the 8th grade to write down my thoughts every day? I think I was just going to be a basketball coach. And here I am. My mother passed away 10 years ago. And it'll be 11 years ago this November. And she said to me, October, I'm sorry. She said to me right before she passed away, she said, Scotty, if you really keep working hard, maybe you'll get a real job and make something out of yourself. I'm still trying.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had a job. I've had a advocation. A job would be a vocation. And I've never really had one. I've had an avocation. So, that path started. And when I went to the University of Louisville after leaving Ahrens and Ballard, well, that was to be a college coach because I was going to be a true graduate assistant. I was going to get my master's degree, which I did in college student affairs. And then when I got that, I was all in to be a college coach. I'm hired by Coach Mike Polio at VCU. And I'm on a staff that Tubby Smith and I are assistant coaches. Now, this is before Tubby Smith was Tubby Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, he was not the coach at the University of Kentucky. He's Tubby Smith. We're at VCU. And Tubby and I laugh about it now. We laugh so hard. I was living in Richmond. I lived in a dorm. The summer prior to me starting, my wife's here 8 months pregnant with my oldest son, Russ. I'm living in a dorm. Well, it would get so hot in the dorm, I would literally go to the office and almost sleep in the office. But it was wild. Tubby would go home and he'd call me, and there was no cell phones. He'd call the office line. He'd say, Coach, what's going on? I said, well, Tubby, I'm just in here. It's cooler and I'm getting some work done. He goes, I'll come pick you up. And we would just go to different establishments in Richmond. Next thing you know, and this is no joke, and I know people laugh about it. Next thing you know, napkins would be out and we'd be Xing and Oing. and it was unbelievable. Mike Polio was the head coach. Eddie Webb, who went on to become the executive director of the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame. Tubby Smith and our graduate assistant was Ray Harper, who would go on to win a national championship at Kentucky Western as the head coach now at Jacksonville State. It was incredible. And I know you asked me before we started, well, how then did you go to Ballard in the fall of 1986? Well, my grand plan was to be a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Right then, it's different now. A lot of college coaches were not getting hired because people were saying, well, you've never been a head coach. Well, from being the JV coach at Ballard, I knew the administration, I knew the people, and I thought, well, I can be a head coach and be successful, and I won't be labeled just an assistant.
Yeah.
This was my dilemma. So I take the job at Ballard, and I'll never forget, Coach Polio made it very difficult for me to leave. I was going to get a promotion at VCU. I was going to be named an associate head coach, but it was the right thing to do because I had to be a head coach.
Well, can we take it back real quick? How did the graduate assistant job come about? So I know you said you played JV under Coach Jones. Is that the connection there? You just brought it up to them that you would love to do that?
Yeah, it was ironic when I was a JV player and they would bring varsity guys in on official visits. I was kind of like the designated host. So I kind of learned recruiting from the ground up, through Coach Houston, through Coach Jones, through Coach Dotson. I kind of learned through Coach Olson. I mean, oh my gosh, to this day, I have built my reputation on the biggest lost art in college in all of sports is the ability to judge talent. And that ability goes back to Coach Crum and to Coach Olson and Coach Jones and Coach Houston. But so I was kind of the designated, okay, we're having a recruit in, let's Scotty be their official host. So I kind of learned recruiting from the absolute ground up. And that being a graduate assistant, I fell into it because when I played JV, I started working basketball camp for Coach Olson. So I was kind of the guy they never could get rid of.
Yeah. Even if they tried, they weren't getting rid of you.
No, they couldn't. And then even all my years from VCU to Ballard, I still ran the summer basketball camp every summer. Every summer.
That's awesome. So was that a difficult decision? And I would imagine it was because you said your wife was then pregnant with your oldest son. How difficult of a decision was it leaving your alma mater at Louisville and then moving to a different state and coaching at VCU?
Well, I had received my master's degree in student affairs, and I got offered a full-time position with Coach Polio at VCU. And Coach Polio is a Louisville native. He's from Louisville. Matter of fact, he's a Bellarmine graduate. He's a very proud Bellarmine graduate. And I knew of Coach Polio, and he had got the job at VCU, was forming this staff. And Coach Olson and Coach Jones, they really were instrumental in me getting the job, because they were like, Coach Polio, you're never going to regret hiring us. You got to hire this guy. Then I go, and then I get offered this job at Ballard.
Well, so what would you say in your first 2 years, because that's two pretty prestigious coaches, what would you say were the biggest things you took from your first 2 years of coaching, even though one was a grad assistant and the next one was an assistant coach?
Well, under Coach Crum, under Coach Polio, you immediately learned, and it's probably the number one rule in our program today from a staff standpoint, put the players first. If it's their academic needs, if it's, if they've got issues that they, going on in their life, if it's material things, put them first. Put them first. You'll never go wrong putting your players first. And, it's ironic. My high school coach probably shaped my life. I lost my dad when I was 9 years old on Halloween Day. 1:15 in the afternoon as a massive heart attack 15 feet from me. Now, you think when you're 9 and Halloween's on a Sunday, man, that's a pretty good day, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I lose my dad 15 feet from me. He drops dead of a massive heart attack. And my high school coach, he said to me, I'm going to help you out. And I said, what? He said, meet me at school tomorrow morning on a Saturday at 10 o'clock. I said, yes, sir. And my high school coach took me up there, and he pulled up in a truck, and he said, you get underneath and I'll do the track. And we cleaned the stadium. We cleaned it. There was no plastic bags. There was no blowers. There wasn't a stick with a nail on the end of it. It was pick it up with your hands and put it in a garbage can, a metal garbage can. He said, I'm going to help you and your mom. And he paid me because we didn't have that. Well, my high school coach used to sell candy out of his classroom to give us a coat and a shirt and a tie and a pair of pants to wear on game day. So my lesson about putting young people first has never left me. And then you look at Coach Crum and you look at Coach Polio. As soon as I'm hired from them, I was driven just to put young people first. And here I am at Bellarmine in 2020, sitting in this locker room that Dr. Lynn and Mrs. Lynn provided for our players to put them first. So I've never changed from that one value that I've embraced.
So the year after you left, was it kind of discouraging seeing U of L win the national championship the year that you went to VCU?
Well, yeah, in 1986. Well, I mean, you look, they won at 80. I'm there watching as I'm a JV coach, but there's million stories with that. There's matter of fact, I'll tell.
Let's hear it.
1980, the day before the national championship game against UCLA, Coach Jones calls me about 8 o'clock Sunday morning and says, Scotty, he said, I've got a problem and I need your help. He said, I taped the UCLA Purdue game here in my room, and the recorder didn't work. But a gentleman in Louisville, Dr. Zimmerman, has a tape. I need you to go get it in Louisville and drive it up here to Indianapolis. I got to have that tape. This is an old-time tape. I drive. No, there's no GPSs. There's nothing. I got an address. I drive to Dr. Zimmerman's, get the tape. I drive to Indianapolis. And I get there, and Coach Jones says, the least I can do is invite you to the game tomorrow night. I got 2 tickets. He hands me 2 tickets. Well, I asked my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, I said, you want to go to the game tomorrow night? We go to the game, and my wife's mother worked at Old Stewart's, the department store. They had printed national championship shirts. Just the thought they were going to win it. They printed 200 shirts. She wears one to the game under her blouse.
That's bold.
They're down 54-50, and she's crying they're going to lose the game. They get the steal. They get the run out. You know, they block Vanderway's shot. Eves runs out. They score. Griff hits an and one. Well, now she's crying they're going to win the national championship. She unbuttons her blouse, and she's sitting there with a Louisville National Championship T-shirt on in Market Square Arena. I mean, nobody had that shirt. They hadn't won yet.
Yeah.
Well, that fall, I tell my mother, I said, you know, I've got to talk to you on a Sunday morning. Sharon and I are going to get married. She goes, I know. And I said, what? She goes, when you had 2 tickets to the national championship game and that's who you took, that's who you were going to marry. I knew last March that's who you were going to marry. So it was hard, but there's never been a bigger fan. And there will never be a bigger fan. The first game I ever went to in the University of Louisville, my best friend in the 3rd grade's name was Larry Bishop. And his dad was his second job, where I grew up, a lot of people had 2 jobs, was to supply ice to all the concession stands in Freedom Hall. And he would take us with him if we finished our homework. Well, we would be the first to get to Freedom Hall because he had to put ice on all the concession stands. We were last to leave because you had to clean up. I still have game programs, Wade Houston, Wes Unseld, Butch Beer. I have all the autographs. I still have them. And I was 8 and 9 years old. And then to see him win a national championship in 80 and be there. And in 86, I was there in Dallas, but I wasn't on the staff, but I'd been on the staff in between. And then lo and behold, you know, eventually I would get back to the staff.
Yeah. So you were mentioning that you were actually told that you were going to get a promotion at VCU. So how tough a decision was that to leave there to go back to Ballard and become a head coach? And I know you were saying that they needed that head coaching experience, but that's still
that was why. You're exactly right. That's why I had to get that. My grand plan was to be a head coach in college. And at the time, they were passing on coaches, and because they said, well, all you've done is recruited. You've never been a head coach. I thought, well, I've got to be a head coach. And Ballard was not your normal high school program. Richard Schmidt, Don Salyer had done such a great job. I knew we could win there with the right guys and the support. So, you know, it was a tough decision. Nobody's a bigger fan in this town than Mike Polio. Now, that is the dad of Dr. Marty Polio, the superintendent of our school. So, and then Miss Ann Polio was a teacher at Ballard. Nobody's a bigger fan of Mike Polio than me. And to be on the staff with Tubby, it was tough. It was tough, but I get to Ballard, and in our first year, we go to the state championship.
So I have a question. So you moving into being a head coach after being an assistant, what was something that hit you that was unexpected that you were like, wow, I did not expect something like this to happen as a head coach? Because I've been an assistant before on the high school level. And when you're a head coach as well, there are things that you don't really take into account until you become a head coach.
Okay, so I'm a head coach, and my goal, I'm at the time, now you got to understand, I'm 32 years old. I'm not very old. I mean, I'm very young, but I'm going to win these players' confidence. That's what I'm going to do as this first-year head coach. I'm going to win their confidence over right away. So I schedule our first preseason scrimmage at Meade County. The head coach's name was Larry Miller. He had a son to go on and play at Marquette, who was a very good player. But I'm gonna win their confidence over, because this is Ballard High School going to scrimmage Meade County, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna go in there and we're gonna devastate them, and the players are gonna say, man, we got a coach. This guy can really coach. We scrimmaged 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, 4 quarters, 5 quarters, 6 quarters, 7 quarters. By this time, he's using JV, freshmen. I mean, he could have been using cheerleaders for all I knew. But I was going to keep saying play another quarter till we finally won one because we were getting dominated. And I was crushed. On the way home, we stopped at a Burger Queen. They don't even exist anymore.
No.
And I was so crushed. My decision was, once we arrived back at Ballard, not are we going to practice, how long are we going to practice? On that Saturday, I'm going to put them in that gym. We're going to practice 5 hours. I am crushed. So I come to my senses. We don't practice. We just get back in there on Monday and off we go. Well, I said to my staff, we would have long meetings every Sunday to plan out the week. And I said to my staff, I said, if we're 500 on January 1st, we're going to be a good team. Well, the great people of Fairdale High School, Stan Hard and Lloyd Gardner, had invited Ballard for the first time ever to the King of Bluegrass because I was from the South End, and they want an opportunity. I said, yeah, we'd be great for Ballard to play. So we play the defending state champion, of course. Hopkinsville's the defending state champion. They bring them in, and they're going to pound Ballard and all this and that. We beat Hopkinsville every way you could beat them. We win the King of the Bluegrass. We're 11-2 on January the 1st, and we get beat in overtime by Clay County in Rupp Arena in the state championship game in 1987. That was my first year as a head coach.
Wow. So I'm sure it didn't really make you upset to get there and have a guy by the name of Allen Houston either.
Well, he was a sophomore. Now we had a junior named Kenneth Martin, who's the father of Keelan Martin, that played at Butler, that played at Ballard. We had seniors named Chris Risenberg, Leonard Taylor, Bill Lacey, Jamie Trout, 2 of which had not even played as juniors. And one was an injury, one just wasn't on the team. And I got him on the team, but we had a backcourt of Allen Houston and Mark Bell. We had Kenneth Martin. We had Todd Howard that walked on at U of L and became a Division I head coach. And it was amazing. Allen, as a sophomore, led the state tournament in scoring as a sophomore. So it was an incredible start. And I'll tell you right now, we can push a little time out here. 3 years ago, this September, one of the absolute greatest things I've ever done in my life as a coach. A couple players and I were keeping in touch and talking, is I had all the players to my house on a Friday night. They're 45 years old. I gave each one of them a DVD of the state championship game with the audio from the radio laid over top of it.
Wow.
They got to my house at 6 o'clock. They left at 2:40 a.m. And all they asked of me was no girlfriends, no wives. And I said, what? They go, Coach, she didn't go to Ballard. She don't want to leave, and I want to stay. And it was one of the greatest things I've ever done as a coach because they're 45 years old. Matter of fact, we had so much fun. The next year we had the 2011 National Championship team from Bellarmine at our house. Very same thing. They all brought their wives because they all met them at Bellarmine. So yeah. It's been rewarding. And those players, Allen Houston had Zoom calls during the pandemic with our team during the shutdown. It was amazing for him to interact with our players. These guys stay in touch. If we get we have a great win or we have a tough loss, I'm going to get 2 or 3 texts and say, Coach, you okay? Coach, way to go. It's amazing. Those guys, now they're all turning 50.
Yeah, it's crazy for me to think that Allen Houston is turning 50 because that's somebody that I grew up idolizing.
He just turned 50 years old. Yes, he did.
I still think that Allen Houston has the best looking jump shot that I've ever seen in basketball.
I agree 100%. I agree 100%. He never played different. He was a big guard at Ballard. He was a big guard at Tennessee. He was a big guard in the NBA. He never played different.
Yeah.
But what they don't know, he was an advanced program student, which was the top 4% at Ballard High School. He graduated from Tennessee in 4 years. That's the part people don't know. Allen Houston the NBA needs Allen Houston. All the sports need it. We need more Allen Houstons, no doubt. Yeah, it's kind of another subject. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, hearing him speak, it doesn't surprise me when you tell me that he was in advanced programs. The man is intelligent. You can just hear it he does Instagram lives all the time. He actually did one. I caught the one the other day that he did with his father. And I was like, man, because my dad always tells me about Wade Houston and the things that happened back in the day with him and Coach Crum recruiting and that.
I did Alan. I did an Instagram live with Alan, and I was in tears. No, I was literally crying. I mean, it was very emotional. We need Allen Houston's. We do.
So the year I was actually born was the next season, 1988. Not to make you feel old or anything. But you guys won the state title. Can you explain, now that I know even more, that you were actually a JV coach and then everything had kind of come full circle, you come back to Ballard. Can you explain the feeling of winning the state title? And was there ever a time during the state tournament or even during the state championship game that you felt like, you know what, we may lose this?
Well, here's what happened. In the year before, 1987, 22,000 people in Rupp Arena. We're playing Clay County, and it's like playing Kentucky, and you're the road team. You know, there's 2,000 for Bellarmine and 20,000 for Clay County. I mean, it was like playing a road game in Rupp Arena with high school kids.
Wow.
And you know, we get beat. We will totally leave out the fact they shot 38 free throws and we shot 13. We will leave that fact out totally. We won't even mention that. In that locker room after the game, among the tears, Mark Bell, our little point guard, said, Coach, we will win the state championship next year. We're not going to lose this ever again. That's where it was born. And then that summer, it was incredible. And all year, they were amazing. One of the greatest statistics ever in the status of basketball in the state of Kentucky. We played Clay County 1987 in Rupp Arena state championship. We played them in Broadbent Arena at the fairgrounds in the LIT semifinal in January. We played them in the state tournament in Freedom Hall 1988. That's 3 games. 3 games. We played 1 overtime game in Rupp, a double overtime game in Broadbent. We beat them in regulation in Freedom Hall. If you add up 3 games, 3 overtimes, we had players from the inner city. We had players from the Ballard community. We had the most economically advantaged kids, the most disadvantaged. They were mountain kids. We had African Americans. They were white mountain guys. I'm from the South End. Bobby Keith, their coach, is from the mountains. We had it all covered. We played those 3 games in front of over 45,000 people. If you add the score up of all those games, it was tied.
Wow.
So maybe that's what it was supposed to be about, but we were so driven that team, we were on a mission. I mean, that our hardest, they're all hard games, but the most difficult game was the semifinal game against Owensboro Apollo, because the score was 58-53 because they held the ball. And you know, if we were an up-tempo team, if we were allowed to get up and go, man, we were going to be tough. We're up 15 against Clay County, and I mean, we're running called plays, and we're throwing lobs, and we're dunking it, we're stealing it, we're going out 4-on-1. I mean, we're going to go down as one of the greatest teams in the history of high school basketball. Richie, in the last 5 minutes of the game, Richie Farmer, who ends up with 51, banks in a 3. They call it a 3. Eric Gadwright can't even dunk, and he just comes up and grabs an air ball that's short, and they call goaltending on a 3, and we ends up being a 9-point game. Or they would have said that was one of the greatest high school teams that ever played. That team was so driven from the despair in that locker room the year before. If you fast forward in my career, before we won a national championship at Bellarmine, we were devastated by a 3-point shot that was ruled at 2 at Findlay, Ohio, in a regional championship game. And Findlay went on to win a national championship that year. And that that launched us to a national championship. So it happens. That happens.
So a few years later, you actually coached my favorite U of L player of all time, Dwyane Wade. And I can already tell by your face you have just as much pride in Dwyane Wade as you do as any of your players.
If you can't coach Dwyane Wade, go get another job. Go get another career. Now, and I'm going to bring it, I hope people will understand. Dwyane was one of the most soft-spoken, quiet, respected teammates, leaders I've ever coached at any level. And here's why. So back then, the recruiting is letter after letter after letter after letter. And Dwyane's got stacks of them every day. Now, if you were a high school teammate and you coached high school, you know there's a little bit of resentment that I wish I were my letters, right?
Yeah.
They were his biggest supporters. He won an MVP trophy up in Ashland, Kentucky, and he took the trophy and brought his whole team out to get the trophy with him. He was uncanny. I'll give you a moment. The outbreak of Operation Desert Storm, when we were in the Middle East, we were going to play a game, an LIT game, against St. X. And Dwyane's father was in the Middle East. And we go into that game, and we decide that as a show of young people in high school being supportive of our country, the Ballard students, to a recording, they all sung Lee Greenwood, God Bless the USA. Well, we're playing St. X, and they'd given the words out to everybody that entered the game. So you got all those male voices from St. X. You got Ballard's entire gym packed. And it's all in honor of our troops in the Middle East. Well, it's in honor of Dwyane. Dwyane's dad's over there. And that's a national anthem. I'll never forget if I live to be 100. He's balling. Well, what am I going to do? I can't move around during the national anthem, but I slide down there and I got my arm around him. And I look up and I walk to the two officials and I said, this game won't start until this kid's ready to play. They go, Coach, we've watched it. Whenever he's ready, we'll start. We won a big game. We went in the locker room that night, and I'll never forget, we didn't talk about anything but Dwyane's dad. Didn't talk about the next game or the past game. And Dwyane, if you rode Dwyane Wade home from practice 100 days in a row, on day 101, he would say, Coach, thank you very much for the ride. An amazing young man. And then my first year at Louisville, I get to coach him again.
Yeah.
His senior year.
Those are some great. I can't lie to you, man. This is getting me pumped because I'm excited to hear all these stories that I've never heard, and I'm big on that, man.
Dwyane, Dwyane, he was so passionate, but he kept it all in. But he was so courteous and respectful of others. That moment when he won that MVP trophy and he made his whole team come out there with him. Hey, that doesn't happen. In this day and age, what do? You go grab in front of the camera and you grab your shirt and you say, look at me, right?
Yeah.
You pose up for him. No, I tell you, the next person that Dwyane Wade shows up will be the first.
Wow. So I'm not going to have, because I know they're like your children, so I'm not going to say which one was better. Because I know
I saw that question.
But I do have a question, though. What would you say that one did better than the other and vice versa? What would you say that one did that the other one didn't do? And it's not a drag on one, but what would you say that – because as a coach, you have different players that bring different things to the forefront.
Who we comparing?
Dwyane Wade now in Houston.
Allen shot better. Dwyane defended better. Allen never played any different offensively his whole life. He could take you off the bounce, shot fake, you jump, and when you're coming down, he goes up, gets fouled, gets nailed one, and goes. Dwyane could be so much more explosive. This is and I've got the video proof. We were playing Trinity, Dwyane's senior year at Ballard. And there is a 4-play sequence where Dwyane hit a 3, stole the inbounds pass, laid it in, went down, came down. We ran a set play, and it's a lob for him. We kind of cleared out the backside, and the pass is behind him. He catches it and reverse dunks it. He starts down the court, snaps, just turns, steals in bounce pass, and lays it in. So he scores 9 points in 4 possessions. Believe me, I have taunted this individual with this. Trinity takes a timeout. Our whole bench runs to midcourt to mob Dwyane because of what we just witnessed. And Jeff Brom is walking back to the Trinity bench, shaking his head like, what did I just see? and to this day, I get on Jeff and Greg Brom and Brian all the time. I said, I've got film of Jeff Brom's lowest moment ever. I mean, and they were, in fairness, they were Dwyane's biggest fans. But Dwyane was so explosive, whereas Allen was so even-keeled. He just was. But I'll tell you what, though. Dwyane could dominate. I had a long talk with Dwyane as a sophomore at Ballard. He wouldn't exert himself. If he thought the game was in hand as a sophomore, I called him in. I said, look, you're our best player. You are going to be a major, major player. You have got to exert yourself. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, coach. Yes, sir. And we had 4 great seniors. Chad Gilder was going to Central Michigan. Scott Schultz was going to UNC Asheville. No, Western Carolina. I'm sorry, Western Carolina. We had Division I players. But Dwyane was the coach. If they're seniors, it's their year. I'm a sophomore. It's their year. And if he exerted himself and we went from 4 ahead in a possession-by-possession game, and he got us ahead 12, he'd just shut it down, start passing everybody the ball, like, okay, I'm done. But I will tell you the Dwyane Wade story. We were playing St. X in a regional championship game, and it was very heated. It's at Burn Creek High School, and it got personal. Some of their fans were saying things that were not real nice, and he went crazy. I mean, he went crazy. You're talking about somebody taking a game over. I mean, and then he wouldn't stop. He's like, okay, you struck a nerve with me. You attacked me with some things verbally that shouldn't be said. And I mean, he went off. And their coach, Joe Bergamini, who's a tremendous, tremendous man, shook his hand after the game and said, son, you're the greatest player I've ever seen play.
Wow.
Now, it was wild. Tubby Smith was at the game that night recruiting for Kentucky. And I'll never forget, after the game, Tubby said to me, he said, man, that kid can play. He said, that is a basketball player. But, Dwyane and Allen, like I say, if you don't coach those guys, go get another job. Go do something else.
So you mentioned St. X twice. Is that team had Scott Patchett on it, right?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Those were amazing rivalries. And it was the same with Trinity. It was the same with Mayo. The 7th region. The state tournament was easier than getting out of the 7th region.
I would guarantee, because you had Mayo, you had Jason Osborne there. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm not sure. Trinity, I guess you said, had Jeff Brom. So there was a lot of talent in the city then.
Jeff Brom, Greg Brom. Yes. No, there was talent. Fern Creek was good. Moore High School was good. It was every night was good. Fairdale was right after that, was on that great run with Jermaine Brown and Maurice Morris and those players. I mean, it was unbelievable. Carlos Turner. Yeah, it was unbelievable.
So I didn't have this question on here, but you bring up a question that I've asked other people from the city. It doesn't seem like not necessarily that people aren't as good, but the talent isn't like it was even back then in the city of Louisville. It doesn't seem like anymore.
And nobody wants it to be good more than me.
Yeah, what would you attribute that to? What do you think it's more of the prep schools that are popping up? Do you think it's players don't think they can get the press here, so they move to bigger schools like the
Yeah.
Montverts or the Oak Hills?
No, I think what happens, I think players start specialization, start playing other sports. Lacrosse came in, you started being a one sport guy playing 12 months a year versus multi-sport. We didn't have many football players, but you had kids. There's just more opportunity now. I think what happened in reality, when we started the advent of AU and travel teams and things, kids got discouraged. If I didn't make the 10-year-old All-Stars, I'll just quit playing. And those kids who would develop over time just got discouraged and quit playing. The pool got smaller. Kids played, and I know as a coach, I don't care where you were. If you lived in the inner city, I mentioned driving Dwyane home after practice. We did it every night. Our staff knew that was part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I had some of the greatest big win celebrations at the White Castle at 8th and Broadway I've ever had in my life with Mark Bell, Kenneth Martin, McDuffie's, Dwyane, Lorenzo McGinnis, Terrence Chandler. I mean, we took those kids home. Well, we weren't going home. We just stopped. What do you want? Coach, man, we play great. We want White Castle. We just right there at 8th and Broadway, man. And I think, it became harder for kids just because there were so many other things to do. We need to get back. We need to get them in gyms, get them in the parks, let them get along better. And then these gyms, we need to fill these gyms up to support them.
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, you went back to the University of Louisville, and you got the coach Dwyane her senior year. Was that a dream come true to become an assistant at your alma mater at that point?
Well, I'd worked my whole life to work at the University of Louisville. I grew up, 5 blocks from campus. I had 2 degrees from there. Biggest Louisville fan in town. And truth be known, I had been passed over twice for an assistant position. And I was very, very disgruntled. I mean, I was, because it meant so much to me. And I'll never forget, there was an opening in January, a lot of speculation on what Coach Crum was going to do. And it's the end of June, and I'm running basketball camp. And Coach Crum says to me, Scotty, I need to see you during lunch. So all the campers, go to lunch. And I go to Coach Crum's office, and he tells me very matter-of-factly, very soft-spoken, that I'm his new assistant. He says, now, you tell your family, but don't tell anybody, because I'll announce it next week. I said, yes, sir, Coach. So I go down. My sons at that time are like 8 and 10. They're in basketball camp. So I find them, and I say, Russ, Doug, I said, I need to talk to you. Dad, where were you at lunch? Dad, we had pizza for lunch. Where were you? You run lunch. You're always at lunch. I said, well, listen. No, Dad, where were you at lunch? I didn't see you. Russ was emphatic. And Doug's like, Dad, I won 1-on-1. You didn't see my game. In 3-on-3, we won 2 games today. And they're telling me about basketball camp. I'm in front of the whole camp that afternoon. We're trying to get ready for dismissal. And I've been with Coach Crum in this meeting. So I got whistles going on, and I'm trying to dismiss 244 campers. And I've got these 8 and 10-year-old, and I'm literally on my knees saying, I've got to tell you something before we dismiss today. Dad was with Coach Crum. Well, where were you at lunch, Dad? We had pizza. And I said, you missed my 5 on. And I said, Dad, we've gotten hired. I'm going to be coaching at Louisville. There's 3 Davenports crying at Cardinal Arena. I can put an X on the floor where I was standing. There's 3 Davenports crying in Cardinal Arena. And I can't find my wife anywhere. I finally, she comes to pick them up. It's a Friday, and we're trying to do camp dismissal. And she goes, they said you're looking for me. And I take her out in the hallway, and I use the words. I said, we just got the job at Louisville. She starts crying. I go in there, and they'll do all the awards ceremony, giving out all the ribbons, the medals, the basketballs, the certificates. I've got to get all the players back then. You stayed in dorms overnight, checked out of the dorm. I got coaches got to get to the bus station, to the airport. I finally get home, like 10 o'clock at night. And I said, where were you? I called your mother. I called my mother. I called Debbie, your best friend. There's no cell phones. I said, where were you? She goes, come on, I got to show you. She takes me into our bedroom. There's a stack of clothes on our bed. There's red sweaters, black sweaters, red blouses, black and red dresses. She had been shopping. There's a stack of clothes 2 feet high. And I said, did you know that I had this job? No, I did not know it. Here's the receipts. If you didn't get it, I was taking all this stuff back. And she was going to take it all back if we didn't get hired. But that's how I started my full-time career then on that Friday at the University of Louisville. They announced it next week. And it was a dream come true. I mean, it was.
So you got the coach under Coach Crum at the end of his career, and then the transition to Coach Pitino.
Yeah, and you know, I don't want to leave. When Coach Crum, I'll never forget, there was a lot of talk about his retirement and his career. And I was first in the office every day. And he came in one morning real early. I'll never forget this. And he walked by me and said, morning, Scott. Morning, Coach. And like a minute later, my phone rang, and it's him. It says his number on the phone. He says, Scotty, come here. And I sprint down the hall, and I run this office. And he said, I'm going to retire today at 3 o'clock. I'm going to announce it. And I said, Coach, are you okay? He said, Scotty, yes. I've got a close circle of friends, and they have convinced me beyond a shadow of a doubt that there's a great life beyond coaching. And I should enjoy it. And I said, Coach, you have earned the right to enjoy it. And he said, how can you say that? You have 2 sons and a wife. You don't even know you're going to have a job. How can you say that? I said, Coach, you have taught me and everybody around you about unselfishness. If I walked in here and said, Coach, you need to stay in this job only because of me and my family, I would be selfish. And he said, that's why I love you so much, and that's why you're going to be successful. And the meeting ended. That's how fast the meeting was right there. So then, now, there's 2.5 weeks of tough times.
Yeah.
But go back, what I was taught about coaching. Put the players first. And Tom Jurich had said to me, he said, promise me you'll take care of these guys. I said, you know, I have one thing to worry. I don't care if it was 20 hours a day. If I was in the dorm, if they were in my office, if I was on the court, if I was in the weight room, if I had to go have a burger with them, I was going to take care of those guys because of their uncertainty in their life right now. So then Coach Pitino's hired, and there's the big fanfare. They have the big celebration down at the Commonwealth Convention Center, now the International Convention Center. And I had a room. I'd gone in and had a room reserved in case he wanted to meet with the players, not knowing my future, just if he wanted to meet with the players. And I knew Coach Crum because he recruited Coach Pitino, because he recruited Dwyane. So yeah. I knew it. Well, I go up to him after all the press conference, all the fanfare, and I said, Coach, the players are here, and there is a reserved room if you'd like to meet with them. He said, yes, I would. I escort him to the room, walk in, and he asked me to please step out of the room. Now, what would you think?
I'm not getting retained.
No doubt, right?
Yeah, I'm not getting retained at all. Yeah.
So we go another week, and I'm there for 20 hours a day, whatever question could be brought about. He brings Kevin Willard on board. I know Mick Cronin from when he was a freshman coach at Woodward High School in Cincinnati. There's talk about Mick. And we have individuals one morning at 7 o'clock. Well, I got the players on the court like 6:15. And it's about 5 to 7. And Coach comes in and says, Scotty, I need to see you in the coach's locker room. Well, yeah, this is it. So we walk in there and he goes, he said, I'm going to keep you. He said, Scotty, I've never retained a coach from a previous staff. And he was building up his momentum. And I said, yes, sir, coach, I'm aware of that. And he said, you're aware of that? What? And he lost his train of thought. He goes, what? I said, coach, you coach at Kentucky. I coach at Louisville. I know everything about you. I've listened to every show. I've gone to clinics. I've watched every film. You're the enemy. I knew everything about you. I knew you had never kept a previous coach from a coach from a previous staff. He said, well, I'm keeping you. Just don't say anything. I'll announce it. Out we go. That afternoon, we drive to Wabash Junior College to watch Antoine Barber play. And we're driving, and he said, you know, there was a large faction of people in this community, and this school didn't want me to keep you. I looked at him like, man, I thought people liked me. And I said, really? He goes, yes, there were. You want to know what I told him? I said, yeah, I'd like to know. They didn't want me to keep you because they said you were so loyal to Coach Crum, I'd be making a mistake. And I went against him, and I told him, and that's why I'm keeping you, because he will be that loyal to me. That's the kind of person he is. And I mean, that was an unbelievable ride that day, you know, to be retained. And now, as you look back, I'm coached. That was 2 Hall of Fame coaches.
You have
different,
arguably 2 of the best coaches to ever do it.
And different as night and day.
Yeah.
One coach, like his pants were on fire, and he had to go 100 miles an hour. The other one was a math major who was very analytical and very decisive, but they taught the game the exact same way from a fundamental standpoint. They just taught it differently. One taught it very high tempo, the other one very analytical, but they both taught fundamentals the exact same. It was amazing, you know. But I tell people I'm the luckiest coach who's ever coached at any level to have people like Coach Crum, Coach Pitino, Coach Jerry Jones, Bill Olson, Wade Houston. Go back to my high school coach, Coach Peffer. They shaped my life. I didn't have a dad. The mother was a superstar. These coaches shaped my life. I mean, they did. So I'm so lucky. It's amazing.
So it's no secret with Coach Pitino, though. You were talking about how he coaches like he has his pants on fire. One of the biggest things, though, is those teams are in shape. And outside of Kenny Johnson, I would say you probably made the biggest transformation of any of his assistants that I've ever seen.
I beat Kenny by 20 pounds.
Did you really?
Here's what happened. That very day when he told me after the individual instruction session, that morning, 3 flights of stairs up the back of Cardinal Arena to the offices, top of the stairs, he stopped and he turned and he said, to tell you how thorough Rick Pitino is. We all know about his scouting and attention to detail. We get to the top of the 3rd floor and he turns and he goes, 8, 9, how old were you when your dad died? I said, 9. Heart attack, right? I said, yes, sir. He said, name me one thing your dad ever saw you do. And I said, excuse me? He said, your dad never saw you graduate as much from high school. He didn't see you get married. He didn't see you coach a state championship team. He didn't see you start a family. He didn't see you. He named me one thing your dad ever saw you do. And I'm looking at it, and he's amping himself up like we know he can get after it. Name me one thing that your father ever saw you do that was meaningful. I said, well, Coach, he did. My dad died when I was 9. He said, Russ and Doug are 8 and 10. Tell you how thorough he is. I said, yes, sir. He said, go see Ray Ganong today, because you can't work for me and look for that. Look like you look. Go get yourself in shape, and you grow up to see Russ and Doug do great things, because your dad never saw you do one thing. 1 year to that moment, I lost 73 pounds from 249 to 173. My body fat went from 23.8 to 7.8.
Wow.
It's unbelievable that he knew the button to push. Now I have seen Russ and Doug get, both of them have master's degrees. Russ has started a family with a 2-year-old. Doug's my assistant here at Bellarmine. They're both married. They're both great students. I mean, and my dad never saw me do one thing. It's unbelievable that he and I laugh about it now. And during that time when he went all around Louisville, he took all the credit. Everybody'd say, well, look at Scotty. He goes, oh, yeah. I'm like, wait a minute. Where are you on that treadmill at 5 o'clock every morning? But he changed my life. I mean, he did. It was ironic. Connie Leonard, the great reporter for Wave News, wanted to do a story on the weight loss the next year. Kenny Klein asked me, he said, are you going to be running today at noon? I said, yeah, I'm going to run at lunch on the treadmill. It was Halloween day. And he said, she just wants to get a film of you doing, ask you a few questions. And she came. And my mother was still alive. And I said, Connie, I'm really, I want to protect my mom. I don't want her to see me weak and see me break down. And she goes, oh, well, I understand. I just want to ask some questions about, you've lost this transformation in your body and all that. And so she goes, all right, let's do it. Let's get the camera on. Let's do this. It was 1:15 on Halloween day when she did the story. The moment Dad died. That's weird. But, to this day, I will forever be indebted to Coach because, who knows? It's amazing what he did, but and I ran 6 this morning. This ended my week at 39 miles today.
Wow.
He's, and a lot of people have a lot of opinions in this and that, but I'll tell you, there's a lot of, between Coach Crum and Coach Pitino, what people don't realize. And I'm not talking about money. They're the two most giving people I've ever known in my life. And I'm not talking about money. We all know what they've done charity-wise. They're very, very giving people. And I've tried to live that example my whole life.
So I know I did this earlier. What is something that you feel like that is unfair that people say about Coach Pitino that you would like to fix? Because I feel like there's a lot of things that are out there that you would know, especially someone that changed your life like that. But you hear a lot of things about Coach Pitino. What is one thing that you would like to say that, I don't agree with that?
He didn't know. He didn't know anything going on. You had no idea. He was the most anal individual about rules ever. And for that to happen, there's no way he knew. Did he make some mistakes in hiring? Yes, he's admitted that.
Yeah.
He's admitted that. But I'll tell you, both Coach Crum and Coach Pitino are the most giving people ever. And the game of basketball needs people that are willing to give. And they give. And I know my relationship now with Coach Pitino and with Coach Crum is one of just total admiration. I mean, it is. There's no way for me to ever thank them enough. Never. We won a national championship at 3:11 in the afternoon on March 29th, 2011. 3:11 in the afternoon on CBS. Second call into my phone, Coach Pitino. I mean, it's unbelievable. When we announced we were going to transition to Division I, he was in Greece, and we both cried. We cried because of how proud he was. He had this vision when I took the job. We cried because he was very confused that he's not here coaching and helping young people. It was a very emotional, we laughed. It was unbelievable. And until the pandemic hit, the first game we ever were going to play as a Division I institution was going to be at Poly Pavilion against UCLA. And I was going to have Coach Crum address our guys on what it means to play in Poly Pavilion because he's a UCLA, great coach. It's amazing the way those things work out.
That's some good stuff. So you were a part of some of the best or some of the most memorable, I'll say, Coach Pitino teams.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you had the 2005 team with guys like Larry O'Bannon, Dwyane Wade, Francisco Garcia, but you also coached a guy that went on to be one of your assistants in Reese Gaines.
Yeah.
What was that like coaching some of those guys, because you see them on the floor and I hear you speak about Allen Houston and Dwyane Wade. What type of people were those guys?
Well, when they shared the one thing that separates good players from extraordinary players. They all were extraordinary because they had great pride in making others better. That's what great people do. A good player can go out and rebound the ball and score points and do this and that, but the extraordinary players make others better. And those guys, they embraced building something. You go back when Coach Pitino was hired and Larry O'Bannon's first session of, he's going to kill me. His first session of individual instruction ever, I've never seen anybody. He set a school record in the very first session of individual instruction. I've never seen anybody throw up more in my life than he did at the end of that session. And it was nerves. He wanted to do so well. It was nerves. It wasn't physical. He wasn't ran till he threw up. It was nerves. And we laugh about it now to this day. But, Francisco, Taquan, Otis George, Ellis Miles. And you go back to Reese Gaines. Reese Gaines could get in a huddle and say, I'm guarding Dwyane Wade. I'm guarding him. I mean, these are epic battles. And that journey of building the program up. And then, Coach Pitino wins a national championship in 2013, and my son's his only video man on that staff. I mean, it's amazing. The journey, the journey is amazing. Those individuals, the managers under Coach Crum, the assistant coaches. Can you imagine our staff meetings, Coach Pitino's first year? It's Mick Cronin, myself, Kevin Willer, and that staff meeting with Coach Pitino. It's a pretty good meeting.
Yeah, that's a lot of good basketball minds. Great basketball minds.
That's a pretty good meeting.
Yeah.
Now, we're in there. I spent an hour on the phone with Mick Cronin last night. We're Xing and Oing in basketball. And that's amazing. I think the fraternity that I take great pride in being a part of these individuals. You mentioned Reese. Everybody who's under coach as a manager, a player, and assistant coach, it's an amazing fraternity. It really is. And it starts at the top with coach. I know this. If I called coach today and I said, Coach, I need a favor, he'd say, what do you need? Let's go. He would. No doubt.
Yeah. So in your opinion, because I've spoken to two of the high caliber players, Dwyane Wade and Larry O'Bannon. Larry O'Bannon's become my friend through this podcast. I actually got lucky and have become pretty good friends with Larry. What would you say was the biggest strength of that 2005 Final Four team?
They were tenacious. When we were behind, we're behind at 18 at halftime against West Virginia, walking up that steep ramp in the pit in Albuquerque. And Kevin Willard turned to me and goes, what do you think? And I said, I'll tell you this. If we can get it under 5 at the 10-minute mark, if we can just go out and get it, under 10. I'm sorry. I said, if we outscore them 8 the first 10 minutes of the second, we're going to win the game. They're not going to hit those threes. We're going to win the game. And, man, we were right on schedule. Then Taquan starts cramping up. Francisco's in foul trouble. Larry's just living his life. He is in the zone. Otis George looks like the second coming. Ellis is getting every rebound no matter what. Brandon, we put BJ in there. Brandon Jenkins is in there just fighting. That team was as tenacious a team as I could ever be around in my life, ever. But they were humble. They didn't care. All they wanted to do was win. They didn't care. They just wanted to win. We go to the Final Four in St. Louis, and they had a night for the teams. 2 nights before, on Thursday night, they have a dinner for the team. And it's just the team. It's called Salute to Champions. And they had Coach Wooden come in. And the Carolina guys, they wouldn't even pay attention. I mean, our players are like, they're like mesmerized. I am like ready to blow a gasket because I want to go grab them and get mad at them. Like, you need to give this man your utmost attention. Our players were just incredible, incredible guys to be around. They were fun to coach, and we were a team that earned that Final Four trip, not a collection of just good players. Yeah, Francisco's a great player. Taekwon's a great player. Man, Larry O could play, but we were a true team.
So in 2006, the year after that, you moved to your current position now at Bellarmine University. Was that a tough decision to make, leaving your alma mater but becoming a head coach? Because the team the year before was in last place in the conference. I mean, was that a tough decision because you're maybe at that point you're like, well, I deserve a better head coaching job?
Here's what was tough. It was easy because Bellarmine stood what I stood for academically, athletically, and socially. That part was easy. So the Bellarmine job actually came open the third week of February, and a lot of talk was being said. And Coach Pitino, I laugh when you ask the question. Coach Pitino becomes obsessed with it. Like, I mean, we're in the NCAA tournament run. We're trying to win Conference USA, and he's obsessed with it. Like, you know, a team breakfast, he's bringing, hey, Scotty, I talked to this guy that knows the president of Bellarmine. Or, hey, Coach, Scotty, I'm gonna make this call. And I'm like, Coach, let's win this championship. Let's win the conference tournament. Let's win this regional. And he would become obsessed with it because in his vision, it was going to be what his Providence team was with Delray Brooks and Billy Donovan. That's what this Bellarmine was going to be. He kept saying it. He goes, you're going to be like Providence when I had it. Well, Scott Wiegand, our AD, does a super job. He calls me on a Thursday night, tells me, he said, hey, we've come to a decision. You know, we're offering you the position. You're the next head coach at Bellarmine. So I go in the next morning and I said, Coach, I need to talk to you. And I go in and tell him. Now, he's been obsessed with this for, a month. And I walk in and I tell him, and he starts screaming for 5 minutes and I'm making the biggest mistake of my life. And I'm looking at him, and like you just looked at me, I'm like, what is he talking about? So I go to my office and I'm sitting there, and Kevin Willard comes bouncing in. He goes, hey, Podsy, how screwed up are you right now? And I'm looking at him. I was like, Kevin. He goes, I listened to every word of it. He goes, he's figured out now how valuable you are to this program. He doesn't want to lose you. You'll never get a better compliment. He goes, you're going to Bellarmine. You're going to be great. That all happened that morning. He goes, he doesn't want to lose you now. Okay. So the next day, we have this press conference on a Friday, and we announce it. And the next day, I have individual instruction, Friday and Saturday. I only have 2 days because we're going to start final exams. So everything's great. And I call Coach to thank him because they went to him to get, he's on the West Coast recruiting. And I said, Coach, I just want to thank you for your comments. It means so much and how much you've done to me. So he goes, I need to talk to you, really important. I'm getting ready to watch this kid play. I'll call you back. I said, okay. Well, there was 3 couples we'd gone to dinner. My wife and I and 3 other, we'd gone to Pat's Steakhouse. And one guy had got a new job, one guy got a promotion, and the other couple just went with us. So it was a celebration for 4 couples. We all go back to my house at about 11:30 to have dessert, and we're gonna have dessert and just end the night because I live very close to Pat's Steakhouse. My phone rings, and now it's Coach calling me back, and he goes, Scotty, I want to tell you, son, I'm gonna miss you, and I'm so proud of you. And he's talking, and he so abruptly stops. He goes, what are you doing? Are you at a party? I said, no, sir, Coach. We just went to dinner, and they came over here to have some dessert at my house. Well, who did? And he's like, they're loud. They're all talking. He goes, are you partying? I said, no, sir, Coach. We're having dessert. There's 3 couples. Guy got a job. Guy got a promotion. Another couple's here. He goes, oh, well, he goes, I am so proud of you. Well, a few minutes after midnight, my doorbell rings. Well, you got college-age teenage kids and your doorbell rings at midnight. That's not real good. I go open the door, and it's a dozen red roses and 2 bottles of Dom Perignon. He had called somebody and commandeered them to deliver them to my house.
Wow.
To congratulate him. So in the box where my ring and watch from the Final Four team in 05, there's 2 corks from the Dom Perignon that he had sent. And that's him. That's him. He wanted all of us then to share into that. And he taught all of us that. So I take this job, and I immediately I met with the players. I threw everybody out of the meeting I threw the 4 seniors out of the meeting. We had 4 rising seniors. And I said to everybody left in the room, already had Eric Scott was hired as my assistant. And I had a trainer. And I said, okay, I don't care if you have to watch film till your eyeballs fall out. I don't care if you got to draw 5 charges or shoot 500 extra threes. Everybody in this room, those 4 seniors must have a winning season. I don't care what we got to do from this day in March. They've got to have a winning season. Or April, excuse me, it was April. And I said, that'll start the momentum. My first year, we went 500. We clinched a winning season, and the momentum started. We got beat in the conference tournament by 2. They had never even been to the conference tournament. We came back to campus, and there was 250 people meeting us to welcome us back. And I took Eric Scott in our office, and I said, what are they going to do when we win? I said, we just got beat in the conference tournament first round. They're all here to celebrate. He goes, I don't know, but we're going to. And 6 years later, we win a national championship. I mean, these players deserve so much credit. And we've never altered from our plan of putting them first, using what you're taught, and being extraordinary, make each other better. But it's been, Bellarmine's been great to us. It's funny, you got me really thinking now. So the first exhibition game in my life, we go play Louisville. And I'll never forget, we're up 8. We're up 1 at the under 8. We're down 1 at the under 4. And Louisville had just been to the Final Four, but, lost a lot off that team. But I'm in that huddle. And I mean, I go through, if they score, we're going to do this. If we score, we're going to do this. If they don't score, we're going to do this. If we don't score, we're going to play this defense. I'm going crazy in this timeout. And the players are all looking at me like, we might win this game. And I'm going to try to relax the players because they're feeling it. And I said, guys, look, let's play like we never want this game to end. We're in Freedom Hall. There's 19,000. Yeah. It's on TV. We don't get to be on TV. Let's play all night. We don't want this game to end. Don't get tight. Let's just keep playing. They look at me like, okay, coach. And I said, by the way, I've been in that huddle down there. They're not having very much fun right down there. I mean, he's calling them. He's challenging them. They beat us by 6. And as Taekwon's dribbling the clock out, I've got a matter of seconds now to compose myself and walk down there and shake Coach Pitino's hand. And what am I going to say to him? I mean, I've got seconds. The clock's ticking down. Before the game, during introductions, I'm in our huddle, firing our guys up, and he's got a microphone mid-court, bringing me to mid-court, thanking me in Freedom Hall, giving me a watch that I'm wearing right here. You can't see it. There it is. And it's engraved from him. And he gives me this watch at mid-court, and he just takes the mic and does it. So now the seconds are ticking down. What am I going to say to him? Taekwon's dribbling the ball. The horn sounds. I'm racing to shake his hand. Taekwon kept talking to me. And I said, Taekwon, man, he said, Coach, we love you so much, Coach. Thank you so much. Thank you, Coach, man. Coach D, good luck, man. We're all going to pull for you. Well, I shake Coach's hand, shake everybody's hand, get to the locker room, going to dress our team. Take my coat off, try to get myself composed. I walk in there, first game. What am I going to say to my team now, first game, after the game? Door opens. Just shoves open. It's Taekwon, still in his uniform. He was dribbling the clock out, trying to give me the game ball. They had all planned it, so Taekwon's giving me the game ball, and I won't take it because I'm ready to go talk to coach. He brings it, hand delivers in his uniform the game ball to our locker room. I think that explains that relationship. That's how it is.
So your first couple of years, you all made gradual improvements, like you were saying, and then you actually led the team in 2008, 2009 to one of the best seasons in school history up until the year you all won the national championship. What went right to get you guys into the Sweet 16, and you all nearly lost to the eventual national champions, right, in overtime?
Yes, on a very, very, very controversial three. There's no replay, and we hit a three. They called it a three, which put us ahead with, we're going to tie it. We're going to win the game. An official called it a three, and the official all the way across the court came and overruled him, causing a two, and we get beat in overtime, and they go on and win the national championship. Well, then there's TV footage that comes out, and it looks like it's a three. I mean, what are you going to do? But it just like the Ballard team, it started that team on, and that team became driven. But the one thing that all this success at Bellarmine's attributed to, I could tell you about watching film and doing drills and running this offense and teaching this. I could tell you all that. The number one reason for our success is the greatest recruiters in this programs are players. Because other great players want to come play with great guys and great players. And if it was a team of lawyers or accountants or doctors, the next great lawyer would want to join that firm, or the next great accountant would want to join if they're great people and they're great at what they do. And that's how we built this. It's all the credit. The greatest recruiters in this program are our players, without a doubt.
So the next season, you guys were tabbed as the number one team in the nation.
Right.
How do you reel back the pressure but still keep confidence in a team that's never had those expectations put on them?
Oh, we were fine, and we're gonna win back to back. We lose two starters to injuries in the NCAA tournament. One ends up having knee surgery, and the other one separated his shoulder. He gets taken out. Let's just be honest. We're winning the game, the first round of the NCAA tournament in the regional, and he gets taken out, and he was able to play, but he was never. I mean, he couldn't lift his arm, and we tried every doctor in Louisville. The medical community was incredible. I mean, we're down two starters, and we get beat in the Final Four. I mean, you have to be lucky too. You can't just be good. You got to be very fortunate. And we lose Keyston Jones and Luke Sprague, and but that team did everything. To answer your question, they did everything you could ask them to do. Even coming on the heels of a national championship, we just suffered two catastrophic injuries. We did. It was incredible.
So that next season, you talked about you all won the conference tournament for the first time in school history, and that year, and then that gave you confidence going into the next season, which was the best season in school history. You all won a national title. You guys set records. Actually, that was the first national title in anything in Bellarmine history. Yeah, but you all set records for winning percentage, most overall wins, most consecutive wins. Explain the feeling of not only winning a national championship, but also winning a Coach of the Year, which was decided on by your peers in the conference.
Okay, so I had, and ever since I've been here, it's not changed to this day. We're the most open team there is. If the media wants to come in our locker room for the game, they're welcome. Anybody is. We've brought business leaders. We've brought youth teams. I mean, because our players are the greatest marketing tool in this university. So in 2011 in Springfield, Massachusetts, Eric Crawford had total access. He was with us all the time. He was in pregame meals. He was on the bus. He was in players' rooms. He was in film sessions. He had total access. So we win the game, and it takes a long time after you win because there's on-court things they give watches out and they raise a banner and there's interviews. It's a great busy. And then we were in this Mass Mutual Center. The media was set up the opposite end of the building in this convention area. It's a long walk. Well, we go over to the press conference after winning the national championship. And now we're walking back. You know, you won a national championship. And Justin Benedetti, a young man from New Albany, went to Providence High School. He came to Bellarmine. He was 6'4", 185. He's leaving Bellarmine. He's a senior at 6'7", 215. He's a grown man. He had 2 knee operations. And we're walking back, and Justin Benedetti, as we approach the locker room, puts his arm around me. And he says, "Coach." And he starts crying. And he's sobbing. And I said, "JB," he's 6'7", 215. I said, "JB, are you okay, son?" "I can't do it." And he's crying. He's hugging. I mean, he is sobbing. And poor Eric Crawford is standing behind us like, "Oh my gosh, why am I here?" And I said, "JB, talk to me now. Talk to me, son. What's going on?" "I can't do it." I said, "You can't do what?" He said, "Coach, you have preached to us to always play every single day, every single practice, like we never want to take our jersey off for the last time. I can't go in here and take it off. I can't do it." And we walked in there, and, you know, he's taking it off for the last time. I said, "JB, son, you're a national champion. You're taking it off for the last time as a national champion." I literally go in there until he showered. So we walked. Eric Crawford and I walked. Bellarmine had taken over an establishment halfway between the arena and the hotel. We walked among snow flurries to this facility. And Eric said, "Can I say one thing to you?" "What? Like right now, what are you thinking?" "I just witnessed you with that young man." After the semifinals, Jeremy Kendall cramped up so bad, we had to rush him to the hospital to get IVs. And I'd been in the ER with him all night. He goes, you the last 48 hours, you've been in an ER, you've hugged this kid who couldn't take his jersey off, and now you're going to walk to a celebration." And he said, what can just me and you, we're walking 4 blocks. He goes, "What are you thinking?" I said, "You know, I grew up in Central Avenue, didn't have anything. What am I thinking?" And I said to him, "My mother, the best we know, had a 6th grade education. And I lose my dad. I go on. I marry. I have 2 kids. I get 2 college degrees. What was my mom thinking now?" As I'm walking, I wonder what she was thinking. And I think you think how fortunate you are that you're coaching guys that want to be coached. Because every single player that we've recruited here, we've only promised them one thing: we're going to push you harder than you've ever been pushed, but we're going to support you more. Well, my biggest thrill in coaching, and the films will prove this, when you accomplish something great, if it's to watch them walk across the stage to graduate, if it's to watch them walk down an aisle to be married, is to stand back and watch them. So when the horn sounded in the national championship game, I went and shook Ken Wagner's hand, the head coach at BYU Hawaii. And if you watch all the films, you never see me. I was all the way at the end of the building watching them all. They had a dog pile in the court. They went to their families. They went to the students that had driven up 15 hours. There was 4,000 Bellarmine people there. And I stood as far away as I could stand, and I watched them. And that drives you every single day to push them as hard as you can push them, but support them as much as you can support them. I'm sorry for the emotion, but I'm never going to apologize for Karen, man. You know, that day, it's really ironic what it was like, because both sons, my wife, my sister, everybody was there. And Russ didn't get there till the morning of the game. He got there the morning of the game. Doug had been there all week, but everybody was there. And, you know, from 6 years before when we had started in that room, and I said, we gotta have a winning season. We won a national championship. And I'm, you know, all the people that shaped my life, how am I going to thank them? How am I going to thank, you know, Coach Peffer from high school, Mr. Wold, my junior high coach, or Coach Jones and Coach Olson and Coach Crum and Coach Patino? How am I going to thank all these people, man? Yeah, it's amazing. It's what we do.
You apologize there for the emotion, and it blows me away because it shows that it's not fake. Because I think that was almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, it'd be 10 years ago this March.
And your face showed me that it was like it was yesterday.
Well, you know, we keep in touch with those guys, and they're, you know, this program here, these young people deserve so much credit. That they do. That they're all that's right in college basketball. We've never had under a 3.0 semester. We've had 30 straight semesters at 3.0 or above. We've graduated 58 out of 61. We've had 17 players play while they were in graduate school. But we've had 17 pros. You know, and that's why people make fun of me. Oh, he cries. But that's why I'm the luckiest guy that's ever coached any sport, any level, high school, pro, college. I'm the luckiest. There's no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, you say that during your tenure, you've amassed a winning percentage of 77%. You advanced to 4 Final Fours. You've won 5 conference tournament titles. You've captured at least a share of 6 regular season titles in the 15 years that you've been there. Before moving up to Division I, which we'll talk about here in a minute, you said earlier that you feel like that was what you had said was what had attributed to your success there at Bellarmine. Is there anything else that you would say is like what is the biggest thing that you would say, I guess, is just keeping the players first is what helped you all be so successful?
Well, how proud I am of the players. The student managers that we've had here are incredible. The assistant coaches here we've had here are incredible. And I'll sum it up like this. My 15 years at Bellarmine is every day I get to come coach them, not I have to go coach them. When you get to go to work versus you have to go to work, there's a big difference. There's a big difference. And to build this program from where it was, and people like Dr. Lynn and Mrs. Lynn, I'm sitting, you know, in this locker room facility right now, this team facility, this center for success that I would put against anybody in the country. Well, these players deserve it. And Dr. Lynn and Miss Lynn, they did it because they wanted to do it. They didn't have to do it. And a gentleman named Tom Conway, his son ran for governor. And Mr. Conway is renovating our offices right as I speak. That's why I'm down here in this locker room. And he wanted to do that. These are people that make a difference because what do we try to recruit every single player? Those who want to make others better. So I'm so for a guy that grew up and where I grew up, I'm proud of that. I'm proud of where I came from. What if, and this is not to be self-promoting, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. I can tell you exactly. It's on this iPad picture thing. I was inducted in the Kentucky Athletic Hall of Fame. And the woman called me that day and she asked me, she said, I couldn't talk to her. I started crying. I said, I got to call you back. And I was on a morning run and I called her back. She said, can you explain to me why you were so emotional, not just going in the Hall of Fame? Well, if you've ever been in the inside of Freedom Hall, they've got them displayed now down at the Yum Center. You know those brass plaques in Freedom Hall?
Yeah.
They ring the whole quarter. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Well, I first saw those plaques when I was 9 years old. And I grew up my whole life reading those plaques. And then I coached at Louisville. And I go to games at Louisville. I won a state championship in Freedom Hall. And then I coach at Louisville. And I've looked at those plaques all those years. And when a woman called me and told me that my name was going to be on one of them, well, I'd done my research. I live close. I grew up closer to those plaques than anybody. You know, Muhammad Ali lived in downtown Louisville. Daryl Griffith lived in the West End. You know, people there. I go through that. I lived right down Central Avenue. Right, just if you go right down Central Avenue by the U of L baseball stadium, straight down Central, that's me. Well, I told the woman, I got so emotional because what if one kid in the south end of Louisville, what if one kid said, man, this guy didn't have a dad. He went to Iroquois and he went to Southern and man, he did okay. What if one kid gets hope from that? Then this whole thing will be worth it. Now, on the personal side of it, that plaque, my sons wrote it. They wrote it. They give you the parameters. It's 440 words, and you're told to write it. They wrote it. So, you know, it's to think if young people, if some young kid in the South End says, man, that guy did it. And you know, it's ironic. You don't know this. I'm going to tell you something. You've done your homework. I mean, you have done your homework, but you don't know this. Last year, we had a game. It's a big win. We beat Drury. Big emotional game for us. And we had our basketball alumni here. We had some 75 basketball alumni. And we were all going, I was having them all at Ottoman Country Club. We were all going to have a celebration. And I'm walking, I do the post-game obligations, and I'm walking to my car, and I got a text message. And this gentleman introduced himself, and he said, if you get a minute, could you call me? And all I got was this blind text that said, my name's Dr. Rob Falk. I'm the principal at Iroquois High School. Could you call me if you get a minute? It's Saturday evening. I'm walking to my car to get to Ottoman to be with 75 alumni, basketball former players from the 60s all the way to last year. So I called this Mr. Falk, Dr. Falk, the principal at Iroquois. I called him. Between Bellarmine and Ottoman, it's 3-4 minutes. I said, Dr. Falk, this is Coach Davenport. He said, Coach, I appreciate you calling me on a Saturday, but I need to talk to you. I said, sure. You know these big murals that you see of Daryl Griffith's Louisville, Jennifer Lawrence's Louisville, or you see Muhammad Ali's Louisville, Pat Day. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, they discontinued them. But this principal at Iroquois, I've gone numerous times to speak to classes and to faculty and teams, and I've gone a lot and will forever do it. On the side facing Taylor Boulevard, on the side of their building, it's going to say Scotty's South End. Here's what's ironic about it. It's not up yet. The picture they showed me, I'm coaching a gentleman named Tyler Jenkins. Played for us here, was in graduate school. Tyler's African-American from Indianapolis. Now, how about in this day and times, that's a kid from the South End coaching an African-American at a great school like Bellarmine. One kid came from a fatherless home. Tyler's not had it easy himself. Here's an African-American, a Caucasian, and Tyler now, he lives right down the street from Iroquois. When they put it up, he'll see it every day.
That's awesome.
That's wild that they picked that.
So they picked that picture. You didn't pick that picture.
Right. I mean, you know, in these difficult times, our community needs hope. We do. And if that makes a difference to somebody that walks in there or drives by there or runs by there and says, well, who really is this? Then maybe this thing will all be worthwhile. That's our goal.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's obvious because you're excited about everything, which I would be as well with where the program came from and where it's
I
at.
have shared that with very few people know this.
Yeah.
And I got over to Ottoman that night and I called Dr. Polio on the phone. And I said, Marty, he goes, I told him we're going to make it happen.
Wow.
I had to go in there. I had to sit in the parking lot 5 minutes. There's no way I could walk in there and face those guys. I didn't tell my family till I got home. I got home and I said, I need to talk to y'all. And I told them. And it was unbelievable.
So let's get back to talking about Division I because I don't want you to be.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the biggest challenge that you're going to face in this transition moving up to Division I?
Well, it's always recruiting. It's always recruiting, but we're not going to recruit differently. We're recruiting against different people. Recruiting, scheduling, those are both difficult. Style of play. There's a first thing you learn in coaching. There's more than one way to be successful. So first lesson you learn in any level of coaching, there's more than one way to be successful. Our way works for us. We will continue to do that. Recruiting, obviously, scheduling is a challenge. The travel's different, but we'll be fine. We'll be okay. It's going to take time. I realize that, but you got to understand that we got players going there at 7 a.m. for a team lift. They're going to be the first one ever to win a Division I game in the history of the school. Nobody's ever going to be able to take that away from them. And then to schedule games like at Duke, at UCLA, at Gonzaga. You're a young man. Who was Gonzaga 25 years ago? They were Bellarmine.
Yeah.
And now, they're top 5 in everybody's preseason poll.
I remember when they beat Louisville in the tournament. I was like,
I was on that
John,
staff. You didn't have to really bring that up.
Trust me. I mean, you see the flag here behind me. It wasn't easy for me to bring it up either. So, because at that point, like Louisville basketball was my life. It was
that was Arizona. That was at Arizona. It was. It was at
lived and died with every win and loss. You know what I mean?
But and the journey and the way we teach the game, and but my overall writing, the biggest factor in my opinion of this, my view of this is, if it's good for Bellarmine University, it'll be good for Bellarmine basketball. If it's good for Bellarmine basketball, it'll be good for Bellarmine University, no doubt.
So have you had any conversations with any local coaches about maybe starting a home and home?
Oh, we're trying to play everybody. Absolutely we have. Sure, we have. I mean, everybody knows, like, let's face it, like we want to play the University of Louisville. We want to play the University of Kentucky. We want to play, Xavier. We want to play Western. First of all, it means so much to our players. To go back to my thing, take care of those players.
Yeah.
Put those players first. Now, the games like the University of Louisville, they pose a lot of different opportunities. Like, I'm going to give you some examples. I mean, obviously, you're very, very thorough in your preparation. Coach Crum's first win ever. Who did he beat?
UCLA, right?
He beat Bellarmine.
Oh, well, no, I'm sorry. He played against UCLA in the tournament his first season.
He lost at Florida, and then he beat Bellarmine. I was on Coach Crum's staff. Knights Hall, where I'm sitting, is 60 years old. You know who the first game ever in Knights Hall was? Peck Hickman brought Louisville to Knights Hall in 1960.
Wow.
What I would love, there's only two schools in Division I basketball closer than Bellarmine and like Louisville. You know who it is? Lipscomb and Belmont got us by 0.7 of a mile. So, why not? I would love to see like a Coach Crum Classic. Coach he's earned that. I was on his staff. He got his first win against Bellarmine. These are the type of things I think are good for college basketball. And our community, which is being challenged right now, what about if we celebrated teachers, or if we, I mean, how hard is it to be a teacher now? Or these nurses or doctors or these first responders? What if we, where I don't care what happens, if Louisville plays a Bellarmine, there's a butt in a seat, every single seat. Same with a Kentucky or a Western or you know, like I would love, how about an Iona Louisville an Iona Bellarmine game in Freedom Hall? Coach Pitino, he won a regional with Providence in Freedom Hall. He closed it down with Louisville. See, I've got big ambitions, but the basis is what's great for our players, what's great for the game of basketball. The game needs it right now. Attendance is going the wrong way, and we got to get it going. So let's be a little creative and let's make it happen. And I think people know I'll do whatever we can take, as long as it's feasible to, if it'll work for both. And I think the game needs it. The game of college basketball needs it right now, because there are a lot of things to do. So we'll. But again, if it's great for our players, and if it's great for this university, and if it's great for this community, everybody wins. Everybody wins.
See, it blows me away when you talk about how attendance is going down, because I absolutely agree. You can't. I mean, it's fact. So I can't disagree. But I grew up just like you did. I didn't have a lot. I grew up in Portland, in the West End. And I remember my very first game. You were on staff in that game. I still remember the score. I still remember who they played. I still remember the date. It was 5 days after my 12th birthday, December 23rd, or after my 11th birthday, December 23rd, 1999. Do you remember who you guys maybe would have played on that day? It was a very, very well-known school.
I would say Kentucky.
Played North Carolina. It was the Joseph Forte, Brendan Haywood team.
Now, I can tell you the story. We did not have a turnover in the first half. None. Go back and watch the video. We didn't have one. No, wait a minute. 23rd, 1999.
Mm-hmm. It was Tony Williams and Nate Johnson senior season.
We did not commit a turnover in the first half. Now, that was a 9 o'clock ESPN game. Quinn Buckner was doing the game. We end up we kind of had a little staff party there in the Yum Center, because it's right before Christmas. In Freedom Hall. A Davenport tradition that holds today was built that night. This is what happened. We get home about 1:30. The game didn't play, it wasn't over till like 11:30. We get home. I don't shop. Christmas shopping was never good for me because it's right during basketball. I got up that next morning and I woke two young kids up. Russ and Doug are like 12 and 13, 12 and 14. I get my wife up and said, "We're going to the mall." And they said, "You what?" I said, "We're going to the mall." I said, "I haven't shopped yet." I went to the mall. We had Cinnabons. Well, we all spread out because now I'm going to buy them some things. So I go to for lack of a better, a movie store where they sell movies and games and all this, right? Well, I get in there and they've got like 10 TVs, and you know what they're showing? The North Carolina Louisville game from the night before. I stand there and I watch the last 10 minutes of the game. I'm not even shopping. I'm watching it. The horn sounds, we win. I turn around and I'm mesmerized by the game. There's 50 people around me. They all start clapping. They go, "Coach," I didn't even know they were standing there. Now, that was 1991, 21 years later. You know what we do on Christmas Eve? We go to get Cinnabon in the mall.
That's awesome. That's awesome that's something that means so much to me.
That's the North Carolina game. You're exactly the game.
Yeah, that's like I still remember where I was sitting. I don't remember the section number. I remember where I was sitting. I was sitting in the end zone in the second level. My aunt got me tickets. And, like, I have season tickets now. And it's something that, like, I love to take people with me, because it's like I want you all to feel what I felt whenever
Here's what we're going to do. If we get some games in Freedom Hall, I want you got my cell. You get a hold of me. I'm going to put you in those seats for a Bellarmine game. Those seats you sit in, 1999. All right.
Let's do it. Yeah, absolutely.
You got it.
Absolutely. So I got one more question for you, then we're going to do some rapid-fire questions, and I'll let you get out of here.
Yeah.
So the last question, what are you most excited about doing with this team and moving into Division I?
The challenge, and seeing our players grow and meet these challenges, because what they learn in facing these challenges are going to help them the rest of their life. These challenges are going to be tough. Look, I'm not naive. I know that. From a budgetary standpoint, from a scheduling standpoint, I mean, we're at everybody's mercy. We got to go play when and wherever they say we can play. And I get that, but we're going to do things here the right way. And the relationships that these guys are developing are going to last a lifetime. And I think the next 40, 45 years of their life, these players are going to be a call upon the toughness and what they've gone through here. They're going to call upon to be successful the rest of their life. That's what I'm looking forward to.
That's a great answer. I didn't know where that answer, what would come from it, but it's a great answer. So now we get to have a little bit of fun. Are you familiar with rapid fire questions?
These. Let's go.
So, familiar with rapid fire questions. I asked you say the first thing comes to your mind. All right. So the first one, favorite pregame meal as a coach?
I don't eat before a game. No, I can't.
Too nervous still to this day?
I just can't. I don't anywhere. I would say which I'm going to say this answer is going to get redundant. I would say a sirloin baked potato if I had to say something. If I do eat with the players, that's what it's going to be. Or if it's an early game like noon steak and eggs in the morning.
All right, pizza or tacos?
No, I'm a steak potatoes guy. I'm a meat potatoes guy. Neither one. No.
All right, so I guess that goes for all of them. Wings or burgers?
Burgers.
All right, French fries or tater tots?
Fries.
I'm right there with you.
Steak fries.
Favorite movie of all time?
Brian's Song.
I did see you tweet about that not that long ago.
Yes. I think it sends so many messages, Brian's Song, without a doubt. Followed by, no, I've got a tie. I hope my sons watch this because they'll love it. Because if I don't, Brian's Song and Top Gun, not even close. Nothing even close to those two.
All right. Favorite flavor of ice cream?
Vanilla and sherbet mixed. Vanilla and orange sherbet mixed.
Okay. Your biggest fear?
The unknown. I'm a controlled freak. I don't like surprises. the unknown. I really worry. I worry about young people because it's difficult being a young person right now. You kind of mentioned your age a little bit and mine. These young people make more decisions in a day than I made in their time. When I was their age, than I made in a month.
Yeah.
Theirs have life consequences every day. So I think my heart goes out to young people.
Social media does a lot of good things, but just as many good things as it does bad things.
It's tough. It is tough. It's tough. Listening through a lot of the social upheaval we've had, people talk about the need to listen, and nobody listens anymore. They pick up their device, or they read a bullet point, or they read a text, or they look at Facebook. They don't talk and listen. When I call a timeout, I can't text 5 of them what we're going to do if they score and if we don't score. I can't. They have to listen, and we talk about it all the time. Well, I'll start listening.
Yeah, so this one's going to be a long answer because there's 4 parts to this question. The best player you coached against at Ballard, best player you coached against at VCU, at U of L, and now at Bellarmine.
Best player I coached against at Ballard. I hate to say Richie Farmer, but my gosh, he got 51 against us in the state tournament game. You mentioned Jason Osborne was a great player. I coached against the Brahms. I mean, I could narrow that down. I coached, I'll tell you, probably the best player at that time was Ron Mercer that ended up going to Kentucky and played Oak Hill. Yeah. Ron Mercer was a great, great high school player. He was. There's so many of them, though, because we played a national schedule when I was at Ballard. That would have to take a lot of research to come up with that. Great. Wow.
So how about VCU?
Uh, we were in the Sun Belt at the time. And I'm trying to think his name. Western Kentucky was in the Sun Belt at the time. They had a big-time player. Tellis Frank, I think, was his name. He was a rebounding, machine. I would probably say that. I know we played Virginia. Yeah, I'd have to. Boy, that you call me that. I know Tellis Frank was a great player at Western. If I've got that name right, I may be wrong about that, but I'll guess. I'm just guessing. At Louisville, best player we ever played against. Because I was under Coach Crum and Coach Pitino. I'm trying to think of the Carolina teams.
I tell you what, let's split it up. That way you don't have to narrow it down because that's two different. Because
the Kentucky teams that had all those guys. Wow. Best player. I'm trying to think of guys that went on to have great NBA careers. I know my first year at Louisville under Coach Crum, we went to the Elite Eight, and Carolina had Shammond Williams, the Ed Cota, and if I'm not mistaken, I think they had Vince Carter. I'm going to say Vince Carter. Yeah, I think they did. I think they had
Vince Carter and Antoine Jameson, and I think Serge Swicker was the center.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Vince Carter. Yeah, and you look at, he just finished playing. I'm going to say Vince Carter. And
That's crazy to think.
Under Coach Pitino, because we played everybody. We played those really good Kentucky teams. Nazir Muhammad was way up there because I know he played at Kentucky. That was under Coach Crum because he played for Coach Pitino. So, no, not Nazir. Under Coach Pitino at Louisville.
I feel like you maybe would have already mentioned him. I could maybe help you. Dwyane Wade.
Yeah, D Wade. Yeah, I did mention D Wade, and what about D Wade? Golly, yeah, Dwyane Wade. I would say under Coach Pitino, it would have been Dwyane Wade. The Illinois guards, I know when
Deke
we played
Brown and Luther Head.
Yeah,
or Darren Williams too.
Golly, yeah, I'd say D Wade, and then at Bellarmine, because we've played, counting the exhibition games, some D1 games. No, I'll tell you what I'll say at Bellarmine. We played Louisville in a real game. My second year, we played them in a real game at Freedom Hall, so I'm going to include Taiwan. But the best true Division II player we ever played against at Bellarmine, probably a kid named Cardell McFarland from Kentucky Wesleyan. He's still playing professionally. He lit us up, and he was good. We played in the national championship game in 2011. There was a kid at BYU Hawaii named Jet Chang. And Jet Chang, Scoot, how many you have in the national championship game? He lit us up for he had 24, I think, in the first half.
Wow.
Jet was wild about that game. Coach Pitino called me the morning of the game and asked me my biggest concern about playing. BYU Hawaii is a Mormon-affiliated school. Their team had players 27, 28 years old. They had all been on missions. They were married. I'm like, Coach, he goes, what are you talking about? He thought I lost my mind. I said, Coach, they're all from the Church of Latter-day Saints. They've all been married. They've all been on missions. Their maturity level was my biggest concern. But Jet Chang was probably one of the best Division II players I ever played against, without a doubt.
All right, your favorite restaurant in the city of Louisville?
Pat Steakhouse.
Your favorite basketball player ever?
Gosh. I don't know how I can answer that, because probably one of the the favorite players ever, that my favorite player ever that I either played with or against or coached, right? So it could be anybody.
Uh-huh.
Just a basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
Golly, my favorite basketball player ever. The one I admire the most, probably because of his work ethic. I'm going to break it down into work ethic. Work ethic, Jordan. Physical ability, Jordan. Team player, Magic. I played with a guy named Mike Shaw that came from a very difficult life, and he passed away a couple of years ago. But Mike Shaw overcome so much to be a good player. I played with guys that overcame so many hardships. I coached a young man here at Bellarmine named Michael Parrish, who really lacked academic fundamentals, and what he accomplished to get a degree from Bellarmine will never be lost on me. And Michael Parrish came from his mom was a superstar, and he now works for Apple, and he ended up on scholarship here. He started as a walk-on. I could just start going on and on because I'm trying to see people that have overcome great players like the Magics, those people. The guys that I played with my whole career. Golly, I hate singling people out. So many of them. And wow, that's probably the toughest question I've ever been asked. I'll tell you that. That's the toughest question I've ever been asked.
All right. Yeah. Well, this is the last one. So if that one was tough, this one's going to be even tougher. Your favorite athlete ever?
My favorite athlete.
And we'll single this one down to when you were a kid. Who was one person that you would have paid every day to go watch?
Pete Rose.
See, there you go. I figured if I made it easier, you'd be able to answer that.
I tell you, because I think I met him once, and I would say growing up, Pete Rose from that standpoint, and in basketball, as I grew up, in my era, I was a team guy. Like I was a Louisville fan. I kept score at night. I admired all those guys. I was a little bit too young to appreciate Oscar Robertson because he was a complete player. No, I would say Pete Rose just because of the hustle. Because I wasn't very good, but I played hard and worked hard, and I think that's what Pete Rose did. Yeah, I would say Pete Rose.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you so much for taking some time out for me today. I had a blast. This was a very good time, and I'm so happy that we got to sit down and do this.
When will this come out? And I'll be able to put it out.
I will as soon as we finish this. I will put everything together on iMovie because I'm recording this on my computer here. So it takes a little bit of time for Zoom to convert it. But, I already recorded my intro, so literally all I have to do is just click and drag it on iMovie and let it convert over, and I'll have it out probably within the next 2 hours.
Yeah, shoot me a text and say, "Hey, Coach, I got it out there. We'll help promote you. You were thorough. You were incredibly prepared. Good for you."
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'd love when this pandemic is over, maybe we'll get together and so we can actually meet face to face instead of through a computer screen.
No, you want to come to any Bellarmine game, any practice, whatever. Hit me up. You've got my contact. You're my guest. Absolutely.
Awesome. I thank you so much again, Coach Scott Davenport. And if there's ever anything I can help you out with, I don't know what I could help you out with, but if there ever is, you make sure and contact me as well.
Just go have a great day today. Stay healthy and stay safe.
Absolutely, Coach. I thank you again.
You bet. Take care.